Yours.
Hello, good evening. My name is Elias Munshya, and thank you for joining us on TV Ibakwetu. As usual, we would like to say good evening to Chiwempala. We are aware that in Chiwempala it's about 21:38, and if it's 21:38 in Chiwempala, it means it's 21:38 across Central Africa. If Chiwempala changes its mind and on its time it becomes something else, that's how Central Africa is going to have. Today, we are very excited with my co-host, Mr. Norman Chipakupaku. Mr. Chipakupaku, welcome.
Good evening, Munshya, and greetings from Scotland. Good evening, Chiwempala. Good evening, Mbala. Good evening, Kabwe today, my hometown Kabwe. Good evening, my people in Mumbwa. And of course, good evening to the people in Chirabombo today.
All right. So earlier in the afternoon today, I did an ad for my friend Chipoka Mlenga, who is standing in Chingola. I did it in Luvale, General, in Luvale. Do you want me to say what I said?
I was so impressed with your Luvale, Mwane to Santa Mwane, or that is Kaunda now. You did very good job. Can you repeat that advert, Munshya, to show that we are one Zambia, one nation?
Do you want me to read it again?
Yes, please. Go ahead and read it. Yeah.
Kwasemukirile Mchingola na kukolela Mchingola echi kuvota china kwizako tulina lisesa ya kuvotela Chipoka Mlenga sepa tunafuelela alina muchima wakuzachila vaga Chingola na kapwako alikumbi ya kuvotela Chipoka twahase kulinga echi guna sakwila mwane. I survived, General.
Thank you so much, Munshya.
That's Luvale.
That's Luvale. Thank you so much. That shows how one Zambia, one nation means to us. Especially today, that the day after the burial of that great man. I think we should all learn these languages. 72 of them, 73 languages. So that advert is beautiful. Can you just continue repeating it for our colleague in Chingola? Because that's a beautiful advert in Luvale. Thank you so much, Munshya. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So what I'll do is I'll keep it on my page, on our page. But in addition to that, I'm going to cut another one in Lunda. So I expect that I'm going to receive some training in Lunda and have one, and then Kikaonde, because Chingola is Northwestern Extension. And so I want to recognize that heritage so that we can have it at least in those languages. I shouldn't be too ambitious to try Luchazi or Lunda Ndembu or did I say Luchazi? Luchazi, Lunda Ndembu, or any other. So I shouldn't be too ambitious. I think I'm going to restrict myself to Luvale, Lunda, and Kikaonde. We'll see how it goes, whether it will get my friend Chipoka Mlenga a few more votes in Chingola. All right.
That's well done, Munshya. We must all learn these languages. They're very, very important. To Asanta Mwane.
Mwane. So yesterday, President Kenneth Kaunda's body was laid to rest, and it was a very somber ceremony. I saw that it was like a huge relief in a sense that finally a burial has taken place. General, we did have different views about how we expected the whole funeral to go, but it's all water under the bridge.
Well, it's all water under the bridge, Munshya, and for me, it was such a relief to see the old man being given the respect and the burial which I think he deserves. I know there was this court issue which is still hanging there, and I think it was dismissed according to your law. But I think Panji Kaunda said they were going to rebury him. I think he's going to be reburied again. So I don't know what that means. But what is important for me was to see everybody coming together, burying and putting that man to rest, and fantastic service by the army or the defense forces, not the army, the Air Force, the National Service, the police, and all the armed forces working together. The timing was perfect. It reminded me of my service. You know, remember, I never buried the commander-in-chief, but it reminded me of the military funeral. That was a military funeral. And the brigadier in charge of the master of ceremony was spot on. And to me, really, just to say congratulations to our defense forces for having worked together, tirelessly put the whole thing together. And also congratulations to our politicians who all attended. And it was good to see HH there. I was so excited. And that bump, I only wish that bumping and greeting each other could go further to talk to each other. I was also upset, Munshya. I was really upset about one or two things. I saw some people who were really, really mourning Kaunda yesterday, and yet only a few years ago they were arresting and calling Kaunda all sorts of names.
Yeah. And
whether that was real mourning, I don't know whether I should mention people's names here. I don't want to do that. The people who were celebrating in parliament to say Kaunda Alala because it was stateless were the first people to show that they really loved Kaunda yesterday. And they were saying, is that true? Was that crocodile tears? Or was it real? So I think that was a big lesson. It brought back exactly what happened in 1991 and all the incidences in between until the old man died. And I think tonight is a good day to really bring in people who have been close to Kaunda for some time and who were mourning yesterday to tell us what they think. What do you think, Munshya?
Yes, that would be very good for us to do that. And so I'm just trying to get our guest in here so that you can do the honors to introduce him. But I think he's muted himself, so we've got to ask him he's muted himself. Honorable Chongo, you've muted yourself. Could you kindly unmute yourself so that we can talk to you? We are very excited to have you. Okay, I think we might be experiencing an issue there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chongo, you are an IT person. Just unmute yourself. Just press the button to unmute yourself.
All right. Now we need to be very fair and balanced in discussing the legacy of President Kaunda. The reason being, President Kaunda lived for 97 years, and so there is a lot of places where you can pick at his legacy. I've been one of the critics of President Kaunda, particularly the Second Republic. Particularly the Second Republic. Particularly the Second Republic. And I do not think that all the people who came together to negotiate for the arrival of the Third Republic were wrong. And so what we need when we are balancing this story is to recognize the complexity of legacy and the complexity of President Kaunda's legacy. We need to be very forthright about it, balance both the positive and the negative. But of course, because the president has just left us, it wouldn't be good for us to dwell too much on the negatives. However, there is definitely a little bit of catching up that particularly you, General, and your colleagues in UNIP in 1990-91, that you want to clarify for the sake of posterity, for the young ones. to try and balance up the story a little bit, because after 91, Kenneth Kaunda's legacy was trash. It was trashed by the people who assumed power, right? And so I think that complete trashing of the legacy was unfair. And so we've got to begin rebuilding the narrative of Kenneth Kaunda. But as we are doing so, we hope that we are also going to recognize the value of the reason why we brought down the Second Republic, because those are important lessons to learn. If
you are right, Munshya, you are very, very right. And I think it's a privilege, therefore, to have somebody who served in Dr. Kaunda's cabinet, who was the last finance minister in our UNIP government in 1991. And I was also very, very privileged to serve with this gentleman in the Central Committee after 1991 when we were defeated. This gentleman went through some of the arrests with Dr. Kaunda. This gentleman traveled with me and Dr. Kaunda everywhere. And I think he will be one of the first people to respond. Because the other people like Rupia Banda is president is not well, and people like General Masheke, who was also there, is not very, very well. And other people like Mangala Zulamis, she just lost her husband a few days ago. And the first person I thought of bringing on this program was one person who was the last in the finance minister, and we served together in the Central Committee. Because every time I talk about UNIP, a lot of people think that I'm joking. I'm just exaggerating. That I served with this great man and learned a lot. So the only person who can bail me out, but who can also remind me some of the things which happened before 1991, is Rabson Chongo. Rabson Chongo, my brother, can you try and unmute yourself and try and tell the people, first of all, how did you feel yesterday? Rabson, can you try and unmute yourself? Unmute yourself, Rabson. Yeah, I think we have a technical problem from Lusaka.
Yeah,
we have a technical problem from Lusaka.
Yeah, so Honorable Chongo, could you please try to unmute yourself, and then we can bring you back on. So that is the little balance, General. And as a critic of the Second Republic myself, I was very broken when I heard of the passing of President Kenneth Kaunda. And I never imagined that I would be that affected, honestly. I never ever imagined that I would be that affected. And so we need to balance up the Kenneth Kaunda story in any case. And I think most of the people, some of the people would agree with me, because there is the story of the UNIP 1968 convention, the Chona Commission into the Chona Constitutional Review Commission in 1973, the ushering in of the Second Republic, and some of what is perceived to have been human rights violations under the Second Republic, difficult as they may have been. And of course, there is justification for it, right? We were literally at war with the Portuguese and with the Rhodesians and with South African apartheid regime. And so maybe we needed a little bit force in order for us to comply. It was tough. And so I just want us to recognize the validity of those who experienced the Second Republic a little bit differently. But of course, balance.
I always take that one really to say after 1991, the so-called human rights. When we lost in 1991, and we said, "Can you take us to where the graves are?" Where the bodies were buried. Some people said Kaunda buried people in some tunnels under State House. And when they opened those tunnels, Chiluba went and opened those tunnels, it was a disgrace because those were security tunnels. There were no people who died, no people who were murdered in those tunnels. And the people who say Kaunda stole $7 billion, I think Rabson Chongo will be the right person to tell us exactly what happened. There was no $7 billion stolen. What happened was we were surrounded by very, very hostile countries. And yes, there was a state of emergency most of that time because we were fighting a war. And I think, ladies and gentlemen who are viewing us tonight, if you listen to the speeches of the president, the neighboring president, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique, you should have got some of the hint of what Zambia was going through. We were going through a very, very tough time. And those who can't remember that in 1965, Ian Smith declared UDI in Zimbabwe. And in 1973, thereabout, they closed the border. So with no border to South Africa and with no Tazara to, so we were basically landlocked. There was a time when we used to fly oil from Dar es Salaam, and we used to have, that road was not good. We used to have what we call the hell run to try and get oil. And then a war which was costing us $1 million every day. So that is the situation which we found ourselves in the Second Republic. And so when we lost in 1991, they were telling us that there were people who were killed. There were people who were killed. It's just sad that probably they were killed during the war. Rabson Chongo, I was saying, how do you feel? How did you feel yesterday burying the old man, KK? Are we having the same technical problems? Rabson, are you able to hear?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we have a problem. Is it because of the broadband in Lusaka? Rabson, are you able to hear us? Are you able to hear us, Rabson? Can you try your without a video, Rabson? Can you just go on audio?
All right. So I think we might continue experiencing those technical. Now they're not very big technical issues, right? It's just broadband and several other things.
Yeah.
Honorable Chongo,
are you able to hear us, Rabson? No, I think it's just broadband where it is, and it's just sad, really, really sad, because this is the man, one of the very few people who know exactly what happened, and who you more than what I can tell you. Because if I tell you myself, you always say, General, no, you're just cheating. Rabson is the right person. Rabson, are you able to hear us?
Please, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, I was saying, Rabson, I was saying, if you're finding it difficult with audio, I would suggest you switch on from video to audio and see whether you can just use your voice.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So there is need for that balance. But anyway, the period of mourning has come to an end, and we are going to still continue to talk about the legacy of President Kenneth Kaunda. This is not going to end. We shall continue. In fact, his legacy is contested, and it will continue to be contested for a good foreseeable time. April 28 has now been declared a holiday in honor of President Kenneth Kaunda. It will be known as the Kaunda Day. I know that we have lots of holidays in Zambia, and maybe it would have been better if they moved or took out one of the holidays in order to replace it with the Kaunda holiday. But anyway, it is what it is. We do have the Kaunda Day on April 28. We are not going to go to the mistake that was done on the tombstone because it's really petty. It's a petty issue.
No, it's a petty issue, Munshya. I think let me let me just dwell on the 28th holiday. I think it was a good decision by the President Lungu. Very, very good decision to honor the old man, to make it the Kaunda Day, and if possible, to try and make that day a day when we can practice some of the teachings of Dr. Kaunda. Dr. Kaunda taught love, he taught peace, and he taught unity. If that day can be used to also talk about self-reliance, trying to talk about agriculture and humanism. His principles of humanism, one of the principles was self-reliance and love for your neighbor and fellow human beings. And if we can really continue working on that day, thank God we will be, our government will be the first ones to practice Kaunda Day in 2022. We will plan for it. God willing, if they give us a chance, we'll plan for it. I think it will be very good for us on that day. If not, practice what KK teaches us the whole of that week. And then the 28th itself, be able to do something practical to change the lives of our people by teaching Kaunda's teaching, practicing Kaunda's teachings.
Okay. Honorable Chongo, great to have you back. How are you doing? How was yesterday?
Yeah, I think we have a problem with Lusaka with broadband. Really, really big problem. Rabson, are you able to hear us?
All right. Okay. Yeah. So sincere apologies, because these are the downsides of a live broadcast. General, you see. So we need to go and plan big time and have pre-recorded sessions and then post them after they are pre-recorded. You see, but I know that we need a lot of technical expertise for TV Bakwetu to do that, which you and I don't have, but we can look for someone who can help us with that. Anyway, we can have...
The other solution, Munshya, is to really try and ask somebody in Lusaka responsible for communications to sort out the communications in the country, because this is not good. It's not that Rabson doesn't have the phone. He has got the phone. That doesn't mean that there's something not right with our communications in Zambia. And it's not good for business.
Right.
It's not really good for business, because this is not good. We had the same problem with the Vice President Nalumango, and I ranted that day and I said they were jamming us. This is not good. It's a sign that our infrastructure is not good. So we need to do something about it. But I totally agree with you. We will need to probably pre-record some of the programs.
Yeah, we'll do that in future. So I have just shared the link with our viewers today so that they can come on and share some of the questions that they may have about the legacy of President Kenneth Kaunda. And so we understand that the family is going to, according to the agreement that they have with the government, they're going to let the remains stay there for a bit, and then they're going to take the remains to the State Lodge area. I don't know whether that agreement is going to be done, General. I have my own doubts.
Well, I don't know. Really, for me, it's something very, very difficult to discuss about in the family. And I think Colonel Panji Kaunda decided to do what he did. I haven't spoken to him since then to try and make sure that he doesn't cause more controversy. And can you imagine if the judgment, if the court case had been, his claim had been granted, we would have still been waiting for the burial by now. I think it was not going to be good for the old man's legacy. I think Panjit Kaunda, knowing him, being the colonel and the officer and the gentleman I know, just decided to go it that way to make sure that we have a smooth funeral without any of these issues. Then they can handle the rest of the issues as a family, I think.
Right. You're right. Honorable Chongo, are you there? Okay, we'll just keep him there just in case he comes on. We have our resident pharmacist, Mr. Joram Kanika. Mr. Joram, how is your network over there? Okay.
Hello, are you getting me?
Yes, we are getting you. How is your network? We understand network is really troublesome today.
Okay, I'm using MTN network, and the network is very much fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I can't complain about the network now.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So
how are you feeling? Go ahead, Munshya.
Yes. Hello,
share with us
about
the legacy of President Kenneth Kaunda.
Okay, just like I mentioned the first day, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda died. You see, I will be remembering Kenneth Kaunda, and the legacy that Kenneth Kaunda has left is something that someone who was very much patriotic, who looked about the issues of education, who looked about the issues of health for the Zambians, and who never at any time tried to look about himself, but he looked for the best of the country.
Okay, Jeremy, again, you look like you are cutting off. You've mentioned very important things. Education. KK believed in free education. That's why a lot of these presidents are presidents today, because they gave them education from primary education and up to university. He was very, very serious on education. And those of you who were young, when we got our independence in 1964, we only had 100 graduates. So we needed to build the human resource to be able to develop the country. He managed to build the University of Zambia from scratch in order to get the graduates we needed, the doctors we needed. So in 1964, only 100 graduates. And remember, Kaunda was not a graduate himself. There were very, very few graduates in his cabinet. So let's go over to who came first, Munshya? Was it Kennedy?
Yes, Kennedy.
Kennedy, what's your view? What's your take of the whole funeral and the legacy of old KK?
Okay, Kennedy's not there. Aaron? Hello, Aaron? All right. No, Aaron there. Ben Muya.
Good evening, Uncle Elias and General Chipakupaku.
Good evening.
I hope you're able to get me loud and clear.
Yes, we are able to get you.
Thank you. I consider this. Sure, I consider this a rare opportunity. So as you can see, I'm in an energy saver. Economy is biting, so I have to dwell under an energy saver for me to fight. Okay, yeah. Coming back to business, I personally consider. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, I personally consider Dr. Kaunda as a man of people because his humanism meant the Zambian people first. He's a different kind of a leader who never believed in self-enrichment. That is why, even when you look at his status in terms of wealth at his death, you would understand to say somebody who had led the country for such a long time and dying with such an amount of wealth, this is a genuine and a person who really loved others. Had it been me or some of us, I mean, I would have died a very rich man. Now, when you see such a person dying genuinely like that,
that's quite honest, Ben.
just
Anyway,
like a
that's what,
retired head.
Go ahead, Munya. Go ahead.
It is true, Uncle Musha. Yeah, he was a genuine man who loved everybody and he believed in equal distribution and sharing of national resources. That is why he died such a man. Okay, so for me, I believe his legacy leaves the best teachings for us, and we should just stick to his principles. If we are to reach somewhere, selflessness, that is one of the things I've learned, and the
Yeah.
love for the people who've given you opportunity to lead over them. As for presidency, can emulate Dr. Kaunda, I think Zambia will be a special place to live in. I think it will be a better place.
Thank you so much, Munya, for that. In
That's what I can say. I
1991,
think we have to learn to be selfless.
thank you so much, Muya, for that. Two things really which you pointed. So he was a very, very, very honest person, and he never believed in corruption. I remember in 1991 he was accused of having stolen $7 billion, and Munshya's brother FTJ brought in the Scotland Yard to try and investigate, and they never found anything. So that is a very important lesson. That when you are in power for a long time like that, 27 years, a lot of African leaders, most of them get tempted to stealing or corruption. Some of them actually in 10 years, they steal a lot of money. So Kaunda, let's thank him for that. He didn't. So who's the next one, Munshya? Before we bring Frankie is here, I don't want to bring him now because I want to get people from Zambia first.
all right, so it appears like there are several issues with the network in Zambia. Honorable Chongo, can you hear us? All right. Kennedy. Mukume.
Mukume is here.
Go ahead, Mukume.
Yeah,
Mukume is getting you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, though I had a problem with the network.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Mukume.
Are you able to get me?
Go ahead. Yes, please, we can. Go ahead.
Okay.
Zambia, we have a very big job to do. If we are to communicate with the world and use this technology, we have a huge job to do. And this is not acceptable, Munshya. What do you think?
It's not acceptable, but I'm not sure whether it's the network, because we've hosted several shows and it has gone very well. So maybe today something unusual has happened somewhere. I don't know, right? Because we have hosted Zambian phones and networks before, right, General? We have experienced some problems, but generally we have managed to do just fine. So today might be a special day for some reason. Frank, what do you think?
Well, it feels like a special day. As you say, it's not bad. It's quite unusual. Usually everybody just comes in fine. Usually get one or two, just not everyone.
Yeah, it's
no one wants to hear you generally.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can we get Wiseman? Wiseman, the old man was buried yesterday. What is your what was your take? What do you think you remember Dr. Kaunda for?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I think the old man was buried yesterday, and I think as a country, we missed an opportunity. On my personal opinion, I think I'll remember KK to a lot of things which he had contributed to my life. He is the one who has inspired me to join politics with the assist by Aga in the of course, because I get inspired by those two people. KK saved Zambia for 27 years, left state out without any single coin to say he has stolen from this. And if you have seen how his cabinet was, when you buy a TV, yes, government will intervene to find out where have you got your money to buy your TV.
Yeah. Those were the most problematic policies. That's why we are trying to balance it up, right? There were some policies that were good, some policies were pretty controversial, and that's led to the 1991 dissatisfaction with the Second Republic. We need to be honest about it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead,
But,
wise man. That was what we called the leadership code, because you had to account for whatever you own. And I think it was good, but probably we went too far. But every country must have leadership code.
I wouldn't call that good. That's extreme.
Yeah,
I never heard of anybody being asked to produce a receipt for a television, because that time there was no television. I was amongst the first people in the 70s to buy a television. Very, very few people could afford a television that time, and it was black and white. So, but yes, there was a leadership code. So, what else do you remember, White Man?
What else I remember, which from my preamble, sir, I said we missed an opportunity. It is the slogan which our icon used to tell us to say, "One Zambia, one nation," where it unite everybody coming from different parts of Zambia. It brought everyone together, and we are called One Zambia, One Nation. I thought, and I was thinking in my own viewing when I was watching the proceedings, I thought our president would take that opportunity to unite the country again when they were in charge. But we missed that opportunity, and they went to do a drama at the burial site. For me, I didn't see anything reconciliation among what happened to the burial site, because that was not something where we can say they greeted each other and they show us that they talk to each other. It was just passing. It was just passing. So for me, I thought burying KK is something which is going to unite us. Politicians come together, talk to each other. We saw Madam Langana she was in the audience. That was an opportunity. She was supposed to meet her church and said, "Okay, we are burying our icon today. We have differences. I'm sorry if I've wronged you, and I forgive you if I've wronged me. Let's move forward." We saw Sabo Himbolera on the same audience. That was an opportunity as well. So for me, I've learned a lot from KK, and I'm still studying what KK did, where he never chose which tribe. As long as we're capable of serving in his government, to be given an opportunity, where he took development in all parts of this country. Central, where I am, we had a lot of industries in Central Province, Lusaka, wherever. He never thought of which party I should take development. And lastly, KK is one of the leaders who never tell us that I've brought development and point at it. Development of KK, we are speaking for itself. Not this development you have seen now, whereby someone has to clarify to say, "I've brought development." So for me, I'm inspired, and he has put me in a strong spirit to say that, yes, we are leaders, and we are yet to produce those leaders who can say, if I build a toilet, it is part of the people's priority to be given a toilet. Not that someone can come and officially open a toilet in the name of a leader and point to say, this is development which we have brought to Zambian people. For me, KK, I salute you, sir. Wherever you are going, and I can promise you that what we did yesterday, it was just a seed. We put a seed on the ground, and it has to start germinating. And those germinations, we young people, we have to embed that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Very, very
Thank
important.
you, Alvin Himbai.
Let's go to Himbai.
I was going to build a toilet in Zambia. I won't do it now.
Frank.
Thank you, Council.
We don't want that mentality here. Let's go ahead with Himbai. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Elias Munshya and the General Chipakupaku for this opportunity. Actually, for me, I remember KK for so many things. First and foremost, I was of course quite young the time KK was being ousted. I remember, I think I was in my early primary, the 80s and the early 90s. I was quite in my early primary school, and I'm one of those who participated or who at least benefited in the free education in that time. And let me just comment a little bit on the part that was it Weisman who said uh, people had to be accountable for what they owned. In my opinion, that's a very good thing, because even today, people have to be taught to be accountable. For example, you buy things from the street, and then tomorrow the police are coming after you, and you find that you don't have a receipt. That can bring you problems. So when you have a receipt, when you can prove that you bought something genuinely, I don't think there was any problem. Of course, maybe others would say that went to the extreme and so forth, but to me that was good. Now, concerning yesterday, I think ababa mambala batekele kumunga wefuafwa. Ni kumunga wefuafwa. Yeah. Let me say, let me explain a little bit of why I'm saying that. You know, I live in Solwezi, okay? I'm a Solwezi resident. I call myself the Solwezi headman. And trust me, bali pitamo nokuchita announce ukobati tuisango muntu na isule shop. All the shops were closed by force, and they told us kabiye ni mukatambe. Now, the question is, are they going to put food on my table if I don't work? You know, I look at the poor marketeer who must sell every day to make ends meet. Okay? Now, here is a marketeer who has been forced to close down her shop, and Alioda Milo, okay? Milo Alioda, she has or he has merchandise which cannot stay for too long, and they have to sell. Okay, and now here's a marketeer who has been forced to close their shop or to close or not to sell on that day, so that they go and watch the burial of KK. Because KK was our icon. I mean, Zambia is because of KK, but to forcefully force people not to do business and then go and watch the proceedings, I think that was too much, you know. And this is not the first time they are forcing people to observe a particular holiday. I remember, I think I was on Prime TV. It must have been 2 years ago when they declared October 18th to be prayer day. Again, yes, again they forced us to close down our shops, and I was adamant. I was one of those who were adamant. I never closed my shop, and I promised to say, should any police officer come to my shop, I will face them, because they don't put food on my table. Here is a government that has strained us by hiking things. Prices have gone high. You know, it's almost unbearable. As business people, we feel it more, because, you know, we feel pity for our customers who we have to hike the price so that we also remain with something.
So Himai, how are you going to remember Kenneth Kaunda?
So Kenneth Kaunda, I'll remember him for, first and foremost, ensuring that us people had an education. That's first thing.
Right.
Second thing, I'll remember KK for the one Zambia, one nation, which he actually meant. You know, he didn't just speak it. It wasn't lip service. It was exactly what he meant. One Zambia, one nation. For the first time, I'm Tonga, by the way, and I lived in Central Province, not because it was the will of my parents, but it was because they were being transferred. You know, one Zambia, one nation meant exactly that. So I remember KK for so many other things, but of course, above all, I think the slogan of one Zambia, one nation.
So one of the things with one Zambia, one nation is for Kenneth Kaunda, One Zambia, One Nation meant deliberately recognizing other tribes, deliberately. So it wasn't like you would just say that I'm blind to tribe. Okay, so One Zambia, One Nation for Kaunda was not blindness to tribe. One Zambia, One Nation for Kenneth Kaunda was actually recognizing and deliberately promoting diversity and deliberately promoting culture. That's one of the most amazing things.
Yeah, I think there's a key ingredient. There's a key ingredient in it, isn't it? Because obviously, with his father coming from Malawi, I think that really helped to bring everyone together, because he did not associate with anyone at the time, and to me that kind of proves that you could bring a country together. You could bring people together, and he believed that you could bring people together. It wasn't that one from the east or that one from the west. There was that people just moved around the country, and everybody went wherever, no matter what tribe they were.
Yeah, I think that was a very, very important point. And even his cabinet was balanced. You could be transferred, but he recognized that everybody had a role to play. Every tribe had every tribe. And I'm sorry to say, not this stuff I'm seeing now, that there are certain tribes who think they own Zambia. There is no one who owns Zambia. We all own Zambia equally. Let's go to Percy Chama. Percy Chama, you've been pacing around like an actor. Can you sit down, pause for a minute, and tell me what will you remember Kenneth Kaunda for, Percy?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a lot of things for me. What I can say is, I remember when I was a young boy in Feila, Ruangwa.
Did you grow up in Feila? Percy, did you grow up in Feila?
Yes. I can maybe guess you might even know my family. Those names which are there are just my typical names, but maybe you know of the Nkuas.
I know the Nkuas. They're the bar. A bar, the Nkuas, they're the bar.
Very correct. Very correct.
I know the Chidambules, the fishermen. Do you remember Chidambules?
Yeah. All those are families from back home, yes. Okay, as I was saying, I remember in 1984, I think I was about grade 5, grade 6. Army trucks going to Kavaramanja to go and take out landmines. And as a kid, knowing your corners, it was like, wow. And I remember again when Ferrerimo were fighting against Renamo, people crossing on the Ruangwa River, walking, not by a boat, walking, and all those things, when you put them together, that's when you start realizing. But again, when it reached in the 90s, let me fast forward it, because I know we don't have enough time. When I moved forward to the 90s, I was one of those who was condemning Kaunda, because I know Mr. Musha said we have to have a balanced thing. So don't start killing me when the things I'm saying. I remember I was one of the youths in front supporting MMD, but the things we didn't know were, it was, as you said earlier on, General, about the former presidents giving speeches, It's some of those things, when you're at that age, you don't know. The only thing you know is the politicians who come on TV to tell you, oh, this one is rubbish, this one is this one is this. E.g., I know you're not talking about Mr. Kambwiri, the way Kambwiri's been doing it. You understand? It's, as a youth, you listen to the leaders who you've got there. So as for me, when we were in the 90s, we had the Chiluvas and them lot telling us this and this. And let's be realistic. We had sanctions, but during campaigns, nobody told us that there are sanctions. We were making queues, getting coupons for Millimil. I remember all those. By then, I'd almost finished, I'd finished school. So I remember all those things. Yeah. But to summarize it, now when I sit as a grown man, that's when I appreciate Dr. Kaunda, what he did. It's like when you are growing up, you don't know, you are just doing all the rubbish things. It's when you grow up, you start thinking, oh, that was rubbish, the thing I did there. Now I'm a grown man, like I have to do ABCD. At the moment, to finish up, I know it's not right, but Mr. Kambwiri's talk isn't right, because the things he's preaching, as I said earlier, when I was young, we had people preaching about UNIP that is not doing its job without attaching the actual things which has led to that government to be like that. But at the moment, they only talk for myself. The current government, they've just stolen too much, full stop. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk.
Percy,
General,
Percy,
I could...
just a minute, Frank, before I lose my thoughts. You've just reminded me of the Kavalamanja massacre, the attacks at Kavalamanja, the thousands of people who died at Kavalamanja. You've just reminded me of Frelimo and Renamo. I will confess I'm one of those who went into Mozambique to stop Renamo. I fought them and we stopped them. But, you know, a lot of people in the 80s and 90s didn't know what Zambia's role was. And I think those who listen to the speeches, go ahead, Percy.
You know, as you said, the bar, it seems you had been to Luang. Okay, that bar is no longer there anyway, because none of us are there now. But when Frelimo were fighting in Mozambique, they're shooting, the bullets used to reach at our bar. Bullets would cross. And Frelimo would come to the villages, go into the villages and steal, you know, those clinics in a proper small village whereby there's only a registered clinician, you don't have a proper nurse and things. They go and steal medicine, you know. So myself, when I hear some of the boys talking on your show, I always laugh. I say, hey, these boys, they don't know what that man went through for us.
No, they don't know. They don't know, Percy, they don't know. And when I tell them, they always think I'm joking. Kavalamanja was real. Feira at the confluence. You remember that confluence? That was real. I spent 3 years at that place, so I know what I'm talking about. Over to you, Frank. What do you remember Kaunda for?
Well, before I say what I remember for, I want to ask you a question.
Asking who a question, Frank?
I'll ask you General a question. What do you think the lack of multi-party democracy in the 70s, 80s, how much harm did that do to Dr. Kaunda's legacy?
Well,
did that take away what he could have done? Because obviously before 1964, we were fighting for independence. And obviously that was taken away. Where you think we're fighting for independence so that we can have this democracy, but obviously then multi-party democracy was illegal for years. We were one-party state. How much of his legacy do you think that took away from him?
I think to answer you, Frank, the issue is that look at what was happening in the 70s and the 80s, where the Cold War, where the East versus the West. And when we got our independence in the 60s, the first country which got independence was Ghana. There was a tendency to come to a one-party state. All of them were going towards a one-party state because of the influence from the Russians and the influence from the Chinese. But for Zambia, it's the actual fight between ANC and UNIP. It was just unbelievable. I grew up in Mfulira myself. The fights which were going on during elections were just bad. Let's go back to 1967, Frank. The day when Kaunda, 5th of February, 1968, when the president resigned, because there were fights and the tribes started appearing. So I think the only way to save our country and save ourselves from the fights from Mozambique, Angola, was to try and unite the country. Of course, that damaged Kaunda's legacy, because the one-party state, a lot of people remember it for terrible things. That's those who are not there talking about it today. You would think some of these things happened. I lived through it. Some of the things were bad. Some of the things were good to unite our country. So yes, I think the taking the country into a one-party state was one of the things which really damaged us. But it was fashionable those days. to have a one-party state. And remember also that we had the West versus the East, what we used to call the Cold War, until very late in the 80s. Munshya, probably if you've studied your history, you could help answer that question before we bring another person.
Regarding the Cold War and East versus West?
Why the African countries, most of them became one-party states, including Tanzania, Kwame Nkrumah, he was a multi-party state and then became military dictatorship. The military took over in the West. But most of these countries became a one-party states after independence. Go ahead.
I think all of them were using the same language, right? So the language from Ghana was, we need to unite our country. And to unite our country, we need to move towards a one-party state. And that's exactly the just.
Yeah,
Kenneth Kaunda is not alone when he's doing that in Zambia. It's Kenneth Kaunda together with several of his friends who are saying, in order for us to preserve national unity, let us impose the one-party state. But the Second Republic was quite repressive. I think it would not be fair to history if we ignored the feelings and the experiences of people who felt quite repressed by the Second Republic. That's why I'm advocating for a balance, because we have several people who were repressed under the Second Republic, under the unending emergency declaration, detention without trial, the use of military force in enforcement of policing. All those were quite real issues. But of course, there could be a justification that we were at war, but nevertheless, we also need to recognize that there were tangible human rights violations that happened. The thing with Guy Scott's book is Guy Scott recognizes that they were abuses. In fact, that's one of the things that made him escape from Zambia, because he couldn't live under the Second Republic. And so he goes over back to his father's ancestral home in the UK. And then when he comes back, he tries to explain that maybe Kaunda was justified in some of the policies that he made, because we were truly at war and we were facing all these East versus West challenges. And so history is going to be complex. That's why I would rather go for a middle ground that recognizes the fact that Kaunda had to do what he did, but also recognize that there were human rights abuses under the Second Republic.
That's good.
I take it that way. That way, the human rights. Can you please mute yourself if you're not on the? Thank you so much. We were at war, surrounded by Mozambique, Angola. What Percy was talking was live, was serious. Right. Zimbabwe, Namibia. So, and then we had the state of emergency, which went on for a long, long time. So I really understand why people might have thought. Probably I was on the wrong side because I was in the army. Even actually enforcing some of these laws. Because if you had moved at night in Feira, you'd be dead. You'd be killed by the Frerimos. And so we had to enforce some of these laws. Because if we're coming from Nkua bar and we tell you to close the bar at 9 o'clock and you move at around 10 o'clock, you will be dead. That was real. That was happening. So let's move on to the last.
I was going to say, I'm just going to say, just to balance it up, because I asked that detailed question, I just thought I'll share this memory. The only memory I have of Dr. Kaunda was in 1998. Went to visit my aunt in Mufulira, and he passed in this car, and we were young, and we chased this car. So just all of us children chasing this car, and he stopped. I think he spoke to us for an whole hour, and he just spent that time. And for me, I always remember that moment. He could have just carried on and do his things, but it was us children just chasing him. He stopped. He had enough time to speak to everyone. And for me, it's one of the memory that's always stayed with me.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. If you had him in his car and your car was being thrown with eggs in Chipata, that is one of the things I will remember. Driving in Chipata, an egg that CBC being thrown and being told, Kabiye Kumalawi, that was tough. Let's go to Wellington. Munkombwe. Is it
Thank you very much.
Munkonkela?
Thank you very much, General. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, and can you tell us where are you talking from? Where are you joining us from, Wellington?
I'm joining you from Lusaka.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
What is the memory of Dr. Kaunda?
Yeah, I think by the time Dr. Kaunda was leaving office, I was still very young. I think I was born late in the 80s. But for me, one thing that always stuck out that everybody, even those who were born before me, echoed was that he valued education. And education was very important because it enabled people to further their own ambitions, to learn more about how we are supposed to live as human beings, as fellow countrymen. And it also helped us manage not only our lives, but even our country affairs much better. I am a beneficiary of free education from the Copperbelt University, and I have him to thank. When I went to Copperbelt University, all I did was just present my results. I was given an acceptance letter and shown where I'm supposed to go and sleep and where my next class will be. And I think that's one thing that I really appreciated, because living in Zambia, sometimes education can be very expensive. I am who I am because somebody out there in the past decided that a child who has got the brains deserves an opportunity in life. And I give a lot of thanks to him.
Now, thank you so much, Wellington. It's just a pity that Rabson, who was our last finance minister, he can't join us, because I'm saying these things, and when I say them, people might be saying, oh, Mr. Chipakupaku, you're just crazy because you worked with Kaunda. Rabson could have told you, because he was our last finance minister, how this man valued education. He really, really valued education. We spent so much money on education, despite the war. Building Copperbelt University, it was NOTEC that time, and other colleges, and the university itself, and to invest in human resource. So it's over to you, Munshya, and handle the two ladies. I think there's Rose and Ruth. I always loved these two ladies to be handled gently because they were fantastic mothers. So over to you, Munshya.
Miss Rose Limbrick, over to you, please. How do you remember Kenneth Kaunda? Okay, I think we don't have Rose. Ruth.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything my brothers have said, and I thank you for giving us this platform, Mushana, Uncle General. I call him Uncle General. But one thing, I think I'll make a contribution and also a request to Uncle Norman, because you are in communication with our incoming president. What I can say is, Kaunda gave us free education. There was a lot of love in the country. I could play with kids from a Tonga family without even knowing they are Tonga, because we were all treated the same. We didn't know who was Tonga, who was Bemba, Chipata. We never knew anything like that. So the One Zambia, One Nation really stands out for me. And whenever I meet a Zambian out here where we are, I feel like they're family because of the way we were brought up. And my request to you, Uncle Norman, is that would you ask our incoming president to reintroduce national service?
Ruth, I know HH is watching this, okay? And what I can tell you is that, first of all, he is the beneficiary of free education. That's the boy from Wengwa who could have been anything.
Yes.
But he got education and he became what he is.
Yes.
HH went through national service. I was an instructed national service. The first intake of Form 5s came through the boys who came to Gatete. Some of them are PSs. I will tell you, one of them is a PS, a senior PS, Steve Mwansa. If he's listening, he's listening. I trained these young people because they became very disciplined. National service made people to be very, very, very disciplined, and also it brought us together. If you share a trench with anybody, you will never call them by their tribe. You will never segregate them by their tribe. And that's why some of us were brought up in the if you share a trench and a bullet misses you because somebody saved you, you will never look at the laws, the Tonga or whatever tribe. You look at these people as your brother.
And the reason why I say that, the reason why I say that, if you look at the world that we are living in today, where we come from, we have values and we have a culture, but the way, even in the way that they treated our hero Kaunda, his funeral, even all these years without even planning on he died at 97. We never planned for his burial. We never planned for his funeral. I think it was very disrespectful, the way it was handled. But if you reintroduce national service, abantu bakakwata discipline, we have a country where people are aspiring to be cadres, and everybody sings and everybody's just dancing. What kind of a country are we living for our children and our grandchildren? That is my contribution today.
I totally agree with you, Aruth. National service, Israel still has compulsory national service.
Yes.
Because it's at war.
Go ahead, Munshya.
No, Israel has compulsory service because it is at war. We had compulsory military service because we were at war. Why would you want the entire? I know Aruth has a different view, but why would you want people to go for?
I never went to national service, by the way, but I just feel that most of the people who went to national service have discipline. They do. They really do.
Yeah.
How do you handle a police force where a police officer does not protect a citizen? It is because there's no discipline. The whole system is broken down. And the only way we can rebuild is to start from the bottom. We will never rebuild. I really appreciate it.
We got the wrong people at the top. And I wouldn't say you would necessarily need everybody to do national service to get disciplined people who love people and can lead people in the right manner. You just need honest people who really want to care for the people and go back to the basics. The police can't do anything because the cadres have got more powers than them. And that power of them, the police that they had, is gone. It's not there anymore because the politicians that are in power want to use the cadres to control everything else. So it's about getting the right people who are in there to serve people and not just to make money, because the current government are just there to fill their pockets and they don't think about education of our young people. We've still got people in villages who are learning on the floor. And if young people are growing up like that, they're not getting the they're not getting the right education, they're not getting the right materials, they're not having the basic things that they need. We forget about having a disciplined country with people who are honest, because people are just in a survival mode.
Yeah, Munshya, Israel has always been at war. But one of the reasons why they introduced the compulsory national service is to provide skills to people. Besides the discipline, you give skills. That's why Israel is a major exporter of agriculture. They've improved on technology because it's taught as part of their military service. So you don't train people to go for war. You train them to give them skills to develop the economy. And you make it part of the educational system. Kaunda introduced production unit. Those of you, I don't know whether Wellington, you remember production unit, you had to have production unit at school. so that when you fail, you don't go to college. You can go to production unit. You can start a piggery. You can start your own lima. That is what national service is all about. It's not about war. So that is what I would consider as national service, not the military side. Yes, the discipline, but the skills side, the skills development side.
That makes sense. One of the issues that we are going to continue really debating around is, and when we are looking at the Kaunda legacy, has got to do with all those programs, right? Because there are so many programs that we are mentioning. We benefited from the Kenneth Kaunda leadership, but we really had no money for those programs. And I think that is what led to serious economic problems. So we were funding that war or that operation at $1 million a day, and we did not have that money. We were providing free education. You can provide free education if you have the money. The reason why I know that the UPND and Ms. Aga in the Hichilema, the reason why I feel like he has a better program, it's because he recognizes that we need a fiscal discipline where we are not just spending money, but we actually have a program on how we raise money in order to spend it. Under the Second Republic, the issue was we had so many programs. We just did not have the money. And if you do not have the money, we continued borrowing. So who was funding the $1 million per day? We were mostly borrowing it. And then we had industries as well, which we were funding because the state was going to fund all these industries around the country. Where were we going to get the money? We borrowed the money. Where were we going to get the money for free education? We borrowed that money. And so it became very difficult. At least for Kaunda, we can see where the money went when it was borrowed. For this current regime, they have just awarded each other contracts to do bad things. And so what I want is, if we are going to trust the UPND with a new program, it's got to be a program that is based on clear expectations. If the UPND wants to carry out an unrealistic and ambitious promises of free things without accounting for how they're actually going to raise money, then they're just going to become another government that borrows and borrows and has no plan for money. You can have whatever you can do and give it to people for free if you can raise the money. That is where I think we need a little balance on.
Munshya, that's
there's an English word.
Every state has to make sure that you raise the money. You don't overtax people, but you raise enough money to be able to fund the social services, the critical social services you need. One of them is education. You cannot develop a country. I mean, I trained in China. China was nothing, but they invested so much money into education. That's why they're now almost the biggest economy in the world. So we need to make sure that the tax from the mines, the agriculture is giving us money, the proper taxation of, don't overtax people. But when you put this money together, split it well. Don't buy a jet for 65 million to fly one man. It doesn't make any sense.
Is the shell. So they bought sophisticated military equipment for another 50 million.
Yeah. So some of the mistakes we made, you are right. We had so many projects, so many Indico, Findico, and all these things, which at times were not making money. But we are repeating the same things now. We are bringing IDS, IDC, the same mistakes. Most 85% of these companies at IDC are not making money. So what I hope and I think we will do with UPND is to balance our books so that we cut our cloth according to we cut our suit according to the cloth we have. But education is a major, important investment. You cannot develop a country without skills. So let's go finally to Rose. What is your memory of KK?
The memory of KK is just a free education, because nowadays people, they can't go to school. the time of KK, everybody was inspired to go to school. I'm going to give an example. Although I was young, we lived in Mansa. When I was in, I think, 8th grade, we used to look at each other. When are you going to go to school? Oh, we're going to go tomorrow. And then when you go into school, because there was that nation, everybody wants to love one another. You know, you go together to school. The free education, there was free education. There was even at the hospital. When people go to the hospital, they used to find medicine, although things were so hard. That's the only thing I can remember about KK. Because nowadays, especially women, at the age of 15 or 14, they have a baby because they can't go to school. Boys, what they do is to drink. And when I look at this government of, especially PF, it's such a shame and terrible to Mr. Lungu. I guess he can hear me, although my family, they don't want me to be opening my mouth, but I have to open my mouth. It's very sad. For example, maybe only one person in the family is the one who is helping other people. Everybody is just selling at the market, drinking kachasu. I don't know whatever thing they can do, because Mr. Lungu, if he can look at the education, Zambia will be like China. We have so many good resources in Zambia, but Mr. Lungu is just about impressing the friends and impressing himself, making factories in Dubai. Yeah, exactly, because when there are so many programs Mr. KK used to have. For example, you are not smart in school, you start going to the night school. The government will be paying that much money, and there was many things. There was homecraft cooking. There was so many things like Uncle Chipakupaku said, whereby you go to the national service. If you can't do things, you know how to do the pottery, you know how to farming. And even farmers, they used to have fertilizer, but nowadays you can't even look for 300 kwacha. I don't know if it's 300 kwacha.
600 kwacha, 600.
Exactly. If the incoming president will look on those things, nobody is going to suffer in Zambia. Some people, they're going to be fishermen. We have lakes, we have rivers, and but for them it's just about one day size. But for Mr. Lungu is only say I've made the roads. We have brought universities. We have brought hospitals. Like in Mansa, they are building a giant hospital just behind our farm. So all those things. But in those projects, there is nothing. So many elephants without nothing. But Mr. KK, we are here. I'm here in the United States because of education we had.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can.
General, thank you. We have to go, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, what I can do, Munshya, is to sum it up. One Zambia, one nation is the message. Education is another one. Whether free education or paid for education, but education is a very, very important thing for KK. It's just a pity that Rabson couldn't come on. I just feel really sad that we buried our old man to yesterday, but the memory of KK, education, one Zambia, one nation, and avoid this tribalism, because it's going to take us nowhere. So I am saying over to you, and thank you so much from Scotland. Don't go away. Join us in the back room when we can continue with our discussion. Over to you, Munshya.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us all over the world. We are going to be back again very soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. And so it's always a pleasure to have you, all of us, Team Bakwetu, and of course, General, who is my co-host here at TV Bakwetu. Thank you very much for all your contributions. God bless you and God bless our country. As usual, for those that are already tuned in, please do not go away, because we always have a discussion in the background.